Hello and welcome to the Crazy Poultry Inc. podcast. Week 2 of technically October themed is officially October, but we decided to start early. So we are back once again. I am your host, Ian Gaio Loco Novak, and with me as usual, with his favorite time of the month, Mr. Nick Knickers Chicken.
What's up, guys? October time, only the best time of the year.
In a lot of people's opinion, yes it is. But it definitely does allow us to have some pretty interesting movies and to watch. So it's officially October.
And 90 degrees outside,
Yeah,
feels like.
here in Indiana, feeling definitely October. So yeah, this was a pretty interesting and strong up and down week. A little more up for me with some of the movies I decided to watch. As far as I know, were you kind of engrossed in Spider-Man most of the week?
Yes, I finally beat the story, and now me and like a lot of people are trying to 100% the game, and it's been kind of a pain because I'm only at 84.
Yeah. That's what gives us that are not or into that yet can watch up to 5 movies this week. But so I guess I'll just be talking about some of the ones I watched this week, whatever you can remember.
Yeah, it's been a while.
For some of them. And I know there's 2 of them that you have not seen that I think you really should. So I guess other than that, might as well just go ahead and start. The first one I decided to watch this week was a film that has been getting a lot of heat and recognition, but I'm going to toss more on the flame, and that's What We Do in the Shadows. And I loved this movie. It's directed by the same guy that did Thor Ragnarok, Taika Waititi, and this is the first film that got him on the map. As far as like with the indie feel and then some mainstream then brought onto it. But it's a found footage documentary style film about vampires trying to live in 21st century. And Taika Waititi himself, who he was the voice of, I can never remember his name, but he was like the rock guy that was like Thor's best friend basically in it. He plays one of the main vampires, and he's really funny in it. There's a couple other recognizable faces. I just can never ever remember their names. But that is basically what it is. It's just them living basically in London, 21st century time. They come across werewolves. They show how they have to feed on humans, even though some of them don't like to do it. But some get a kick out of it. And they explore how when you're older, of course, you have more powers and more abilities, but even some more weaknesses. I don't know if I went a solid minute without laughing in this movie, a lot like Thor Ragnarok, but it actually also, just like Thor Ragnarok, still saves some time to kind of go deeper into the characters, so that's why I enjoyed it more. It actually explored the characters. Without having to say anything else, I don't want to say anything else. I just want to say you guys have to watch this movie. This is just amazing and hilarious and a good time. As it says apparently on the DVD or Blu-ray case, the LA Times says bloody hilarious. It's pretty appropriate. And if Mr. Nick here ever wants to borrow this, go ahead. Because I think you need to see it.
96 on Rotten.
Yeah, if
and
that's
it's to call it a mockumentary.
Yeah, mockumentary, yeah. Like Spinal Tap or anything else like that fashion. So if I definitely were to give that a grade, I would give it like an A to A+. I just am... I want to just watch it again to see if I actually feel like I'd have any, nicks with it, but I honestly almost don't know. It felt pretty much perfect in my mind.
Hey, and it came out around my birthday, too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, please seek it out. It needs to get more attention, even though it's been growing. So then the first list on my list this week of Stephen King adaptations that I had never seen before, and I had heard people recommending it sometimes, and that was Pet Sematary. Um, and this could be an unpopular opinion, but I honestly almost didn't really care for this one. After watching it, I just kind of found myself saying, I really don't like most of these characters. They keep on doing stuff that just brings harm to everybody else. Even the old man in it, that is like the wisdom of like, this is what the pet cemetery is, and stuff like that, even does some things that don't really compute with me to sense. Uh, so, but, and I also kind of was thrown into left field when I found out then that, like, this whole thing about the pet cemetery bringing back, like, your pets, or like in this, the cat,
The kitty!
or the little boy that gets killed in the street. I thought that they actually got buried in the actual pet cemetery, but that's not true. They actually go past the pet cemetery to like this Indian special cemetery or whatever it was to get buried. So that kind of threw me for a loop. I do kind of want to know if this is like a side thing connected to Maximum Overdrive because of how many trucks go by. And if it is, that's a little bit of a plus to it. But I also didn't feel like the chemistry between the main father and mother in this film was there. It felt like to me they just really didn't like each other, that they kind of afterwards they just split from each other and went to their trailers separately. The cat was kind of creepy sometimes, which is always kind of a shock with me because I just love cats and stuff. The freakiest thing to me in this film that got me a few times was like the the flashbacks to when the main mother in this sees her sister who had like something like going on with her spine, and she was getting all turning into a skeleton. She had the creepiest scenes to me. Uh, and I mean, even the boy at some points when he comes back and he's definitely different and like a demon basically, started to come off like a Chucky ripoff to me.
Yeah, that kid also played in Spawn.
Oh, he did?
Yep.
Who'd he play?
Mako Hughes. He was the boy that
Was
like
in
the
the
homeless kid, and he
Oh,
found him in the alley.
Ah,
Same kid.
did not know. The more you know.
There's the fact of the day.
Yeah, interesting fact. Trying to come up with something else.
Well, if you want me to tell you what,
Sure. Whatever.
It's been a long time,
Yeah.
but Pet Sematary is like a, what's the best word? How should I put this?
Cult.
It's a cult classic, but wasn't a fantastic movie. How about? I mean, it's known because of what it did at the time, and it was what came out in 1989. And I remember Fred
Yes,
Gwynn.
it did.
Fred Gwynn actually played Judd, who Fred Gwynn was the main guy in the Munsters. So there's another fact for you.
You're just riddled with facts today.
Yeah, I just definitely remember his role. Not that it was fantastic or anything, but he was such a big guy back in the day, and it was his voice, and he was just a popular guy. But as far as the movie goes, I just remember the cat and the people warning when the boy died. The people warning them not to bury him in the vicinity because I don't remember the exact reason why, but I'm assuming it was the grounds, the hallowed grounds. And it's the name of it's Pet Cemetery, so you got to kind of figure somebody gets buried, more likely a pet, and it comes back to life. And it was creepy at times. I do remember that, and especially when I was watching it when I was younger. But if I watched it now, I might feel a little differently. But it's been a little bit since I've seen it.
And I just remembered this also looking on the back of the case with the pictures that there's a character in this that is like the warning spirit symbol in it that is a person that dies in this main character who is a doctor's site, and basically haunts him and tells him to, not do any of this thing to disturb the realms or whatever. He came off as a gigantic ripoff of what they do in An American Werewolf in London with his friend that dies, and because he didn't have a natural death, he's basically stuck there in the spirit realm. And I looked at it as far as like when this movie came out, when An American Werewolf in London came out, American Werewolf came out first. The book, however, was written around the same time, so I don't know if Stephen King saw it or wrote it down first. I don't know, but when I watched this and the fact that the movies came out very different dates, that's just the vibe I get from it. So, even though a lot of people kept on recommending this, and one of our friends saying that she couldn't watch it again because of the whole animal stuff, to me it's kind of more of a I don't know if I could watch this again because I didn't care for it afterwards. So yeah, if I had to grade that, only because I got kind of freaked out a few times and the acting really wasn't that great overall, maybe a D+, maybe even a C- if I want to be nice. But I could see how it could probably scare a few people when it came out.
I'd just give it a C because I just always remember, it being one of the first few that actually freaked me out when I was littler. And like I said, it is a cult classic, and it will forever be talked about, and people have written.
It's getting a remake. But maybe like maybe it'll be better.
We'll see about that. It's got a lot to live up to.
I don't know. I think it could roll off and make some good changes.
We'll see.
So then the next one I watched was a film that came out earlier this year that I really wanted to see and was hearing really good critical acclaim, which was Ghost Stories. And of course, because of how indie this was, did not come to our theater. Thank you very much for that. So I just decided to, because of how acclaimed it was getting, and my critics I even follow were saying they thought it was really good, I decided, I'll spend the almost $18 to buy it and check it out. And you know what? In short terms, I am happy because this is another really solid horror film. It follows the journey of a paranormal activist that tries to disprove that there's any paranormal activities going on. And he's given 3 cases by a man who did the same thing, but couldn't figure them out, and that he was led to believe that they were of the supernatural. And all 3 stories just keep on piling on the suspense and the horror and thriller of it, as far as trying to figure out if they're real or not. Because it is kind of him hearing the stories about it, and then they visually show you it. And it's not a lot of big names.
Outside of Martin Freeman, baby.
Martin Freeman, he's the biggest name in this. And even the main character in this is actually one of the directors of this film. That was really surprising because I thought he was really good. And again, because not wanting to spoil or go into great detail about this, it's just another one I would highly, highly recommend for this. There's a lot of visual stuff, like of The Shining. Then I would draw comparisons to stuff that they do in The Conjuring, because it's kind of scares like that. And the last 20 minutes, or even 15 minutes of this film, are just what the fuckery. It just goes insane. And when that happens, though, this is also one of the few horror movies that I would say you literally have to be awake and pay attention to even the smallest things, because then it comes back to it. I unfortunately was watching this when I was feeling somewhat tired, so I didn't follow everything. So I want to watch it again, when I'm fully awake and conscious for it, just so I can follow the story better. but it's well acted, it's well executed. It actually freaked me out a number of times. So that's a solid piece of horror right there.
It's got an 82.
An 82 on Rotten?
It says Ghost Stories offers a well-crafted, skillfully told horror anthology that cleverly toys with genre tropes while adding a few devilishly frightful twists.
And I hope if you ever want to watch it or borrow it, you'll feel the same. The cover is quite creepy, isn't it?
I'd date her.
Oh gosh.
It's the eyes.
Just look up the poster and you'll get it. So yeah, Ghost Stories. I give it an A. Go see it. Go find it. And then to continue on with the Stephen King that was going on this week for me, I decided to pop in good old Misery.
Fantastic.
One of the most highly acclaimed Stephen King adaptations for a while. James Caan, Kathy Bates. There's almost not as much as you can really say more about it because it's been covered so much.
Quick saying. If you ever want to see James Caan in a really good show, watch Las Vegas. Okay, continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
A show that's not even on anymore.
It should be.
This is the kind of horror that I personally like to get into because it's psychological horror, but it's also horror that feels like it can happen. Much like Jaws. Because it's like, yeah, you can kind of check to see if there's ever going to be a shark that big. But people have been eaten by sharks. That's what made it terrifying. But this is about a crazed fan that finds an author that's in a car accident and just goes crazy with him. And
drags him to a cabin in the middle of nowhere.
Cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
And just the realism and the acting in this is just phenomenal by everybody. James Caan is always pretty good. But this performance by Kathy Bates, holy shit. She could turn on a dime from being this sweet, loving fan to just this psychotic woman.
I told everybody this to date. Every time I see her, I think about this movie. Whatever she's in. You know, she could be the nicest person like she's in Big Bang Theory right now. So I see her and I'm like, oh God, Misery. So.
Well, that was exactly what I thought of when she appeared. And I was like, oh shit, Amy. She had Misery as a mother. But I've also heard that she was in another really good, underrated Stephen King movie, which was Dolores Claiborne. So I want to check that out at some point. But the scares in this, again, are mostly psychological. But what does happen in the film, as far as physically, still gets me. The sledgehammer to the foot, oh my gosh. I knew that was a fake foot, but the sound and the way that it just was like a quick shot of it was just gold. This is also directed by Rob Reiner. Did an amazing job with this. Source material. I have heard that the actual book is a little bit more graphic as far as what happens. I don't know. I don't think you really needed it. This is a psychological horror story, so I think they did what they should have done, and that was perfect the way that it is. So, yeah. Anything you want to talk about?
You covered everything.
Do you kind of remember how you first felt when you saw it?
Yeah. I just remember thinking it truly was different than any other horror movie I'd ever seen. Like you said, it was psychological, and everything else is kind of like straight to the point. You know, machete, knife, whatever else. This is just something that makes you think, and it's like, wow. I literally, that the first time I saw it, I was like, this really could happen to somebody. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
And Stephen King has his own crazy fans, so
it all works out. But
this is his horror story.
I don't know. I think this has led to a lot of horror movies. You know, and trying to kind of put out the same idea, and it, more often than not, doesn't work because nothing's going to live up to Misery, and it has a 89 on Rotten Tomatoes. So
And I think that's actually a little bit low, because I would give this movie an A+.
it's actually 89 on both, which is pretty weird. Audience and critics.
So, yeah, and then decided to, I guess, close out this week for this session with another Stephen King movie that I had never seen, one I had never seen, and I didn't really know about, but then I decided to check it out after a few people I watched online talk about it, and that was 1408. And boy, was this an interesting movie to watch to see how it unfolded, because it's basically John Cusack in a hotel room for almost 80 to 90% of this movie. He's of course, with Stephen King, it's an author who also likes to drink, who goes to supposedly haunted areas and finds out about their history. Spends one night to kind of get a feeling of the room and the atmosphere, and then writes about them in a book series. He then comes across this one that's called the Dolphin Hotel, and the manager of this is Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I vaguely remember this movie.
And there are just legendary deaths in this room. That's room 1408. In fact, it's so old it actually has a key and not an electronic key. But so it's just like a discovery about, is he going crazy? Is the room really possessed? And it also then deals with the trauma of his past coming back and having to face up with it, about with his daughter, about with his wife. Without trying to spoil much about it, I don't know how much more detail I can get. It does have some good imagery and a good setting. It also kind of had a Kubrick Shining kind of feel to it, which, when you kind of try to do that, you're pretty gold. Cusack, I thought, gave a great performance in this. I've not seen him give that many great performances personally, but I have not yet checked out movies that have been told that he gives a great performance in. I've seen him do good ones. Samuel L., he's second on the billing, but he really only comes up a couple of times in this movie. He always brings his presence, and you always get a feeling with him. And then again, the ending just is a gigantic what the fuckery, because you think it's ending this way, and then the story continues, and then you get what is then established as, well, this would be a Stephen King ending. So, yeah, I would say maybe there's a few pacing issues, and it really is just really feeling like that of just going, what is going on? But I think that's also what the movie is intending to doing and the story would be doing. I don't know necessarily how often I would put this in, but it's got great performances. It's a really classic Stephen King story with some good visuals, and good suspense. So I would probably give it a B+ range. You remember anything?
I saw bits and pieces of it. I didn't watch it all the way through, but in the synopsis it says, relying on psychological tension rather than overt violence and gore, 1408 is a genuinely creepy thriller with a strong lead performance by John Cusack. So, but I could probably dig it. It sounds like something I like.
So, yeah, that concludes my horror watching this week. You had a special input that you wanted to bring up that you brought here?
Well, it's just something I kind of purchased for like $5, but I had been told from a couple of buddies yesterday that I should check it out. They didn't say it was great, but it's got like a 77 on Rotten. It's called Bloodfest, and I guess it came out this year. Yeah. And it's basically, I'll read to you about it because, like I said, I've never seen it. So
synopsis.
Yeah. It says, fans flock to a festival. Sounds familiar. Celebrating the most iconic horror movies, only to discover that the charismatic showman behind the event has a diabolical agenda. As festival attendees start dying, three teenagers, more schooled in horror film cliches than practical knowledge about neutralizing psycho killers, must band together and battle through various madmen and monstrosities to survive. So, I guess they get stuck in like a cliche festival about horror, but they've seen all the movies and they kind of figure out, I guess, ways to avoid it. So I was like, well, screw it. I'll lay down $5. I mean, what is it going to hurt me? Plus, it's like a decent score on Rotten. So I don't know. I can't tell you if I liked it or didn't like it yet because I haven't seen it. So, but I'll probably check it out tonight or some other night, and I'll talk about it next week more in depth.
Yeah. And if it is good enough, maybe I might want to borrow it to put on that feeling. So pretty much as far as movies, that's kind of all that we felt like covering. However, there was another thing that came out, kind of horror themed, that came out this last week. We just have not really delved into this subject that much, and that is involving music. We definitely here, if you've not been able to figure out, we are definitely mostly metalheads, but we're not tossing everything aside. But a band that we became really big fans of, and then we saw this year at Warped, was Ice Nine Kills, who started becoming really popular with their horror-themed music albums of like metalcore and stuff like that as their genre. But this year they put out an album called The Silver Scream, which is all based on horror movies. And would I be wrong in saying that this was one of your, if not your most anticipated albums this year?
Oh yeah. As soon as I saw they were doing on horror movies, it completely took my breath away because of what they did with every trick in the book. That album was incredible, and then I was like, man, the thoughts that are probably going through their minds and the ideas that they probably have to do, the material they could do during the songs, they could bring in to help, just intrigued me so much. So.
Yeah, I was definitely very intrigued by it. I just wasn't putting it high up. I was just like, let's just have another solid album, and maybe be creative with it. Again, I knew there was like a few songs on here that I have now found out what they were and stuff, meaning, but I have not seen those movies yet, so I couldn't clarify that. But for the most part, I have actually seen most of these, so it was pretty easy for me to determine that. So, kind of just like the just shooting straight forward, what is your overall opinion about this album? What tracks stand out to you, and what tracks maybe don't, or whatever, how you feel about it?
Well, we got 3 singles and 3 videos, like pretty much right off the bat. That being American Nightmare, which is about Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street. Thank God It's Friday, about Jason and Friday the 13th, and Grave Mistake about The Crow, which I got wrong. I thought it was Pet Sematary, so excuse me, but I wasn't disappointed with The Crow. It's a great song. So right off the bat, those 3 came out, and then I was thoroughly impressed. And Spencer's beautiful voice, But,
okay.
Yeah, I know, I'm fanboying over here. But, and the videos were fantastic, and they're more like stories, actually, if you watch them.
Well, yeah, it's a continuing thing.
Yeah, and it will continue.
There was part 1, part 2.
And then part 4 will be out, I'm going to guess, around Halloween, obviously, because another song that came out is Stabbed in the Dark, based on Michael Myers and Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had, Savages, which is based on Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Jig Is Up, based on Jigsaw and the movie Saw. Rocking the Boat, based on the fantastic movie Jaws. Enjoy Your Sleigh, based on The Shining. Freak Flag, which is another one I completely guessed on and I got right somehow, and I said Devil's Rejects on that one. The World in My Hands, I got wrong. I thought that one was going to be Pinhead. And
Hellraiser. Which would have been one that I had not seen, so I would not have gotten any of the references.
Yeah.
However,
it would end up being Edward Scissorhands.
which after I listened to it, I understood.
Then Merry Axemas, which is based on
Silent Night, Deadly
Silent
Night.
Night, Deadly Night, which I've seen.
I have not watched it yet.
Which I've seen, yes, and I guessed that one right. Love Bites, I got wrong. Where did I guess on that one?
I don't know. My first initial thought was a vampire theme, but
Love Bites. I can't remember what I guessed.
it was an American Werewolf.
Yeah,
in
American
London.
Werewolf in London, which is an awesome movie. And then lastly, It Is the End, which was maybe the most obvious one to me because it was in capital letters
Yeah.
and it was based on Pennywise. I absolutely, I think they knocked it out of the park. It's one of the few CDs I've seen on iTunes that is rated a 5 out of 5, and I think this album should get merit, and I think it should be up for awards. 12 of the 13. Yeah, I know, right? Metal
That's
getting
wishful
awards.
thinking.
Yeah, but I thought, initially, I'm going to tell you what I thought overall, and then I'll go through some of the songs. 12 of the 13 songs I thought were brilliant. One of them was okay. I was not, I was kind of disappointed with it because, it's such a great character, and that was Savages. And I hate to, shout out to Damon because I know this was the most awaited song, but
Well, apparently he felt the same way. So
yeah, I think they could have just done more with it. I know it was still a pretty good song, and as an album, it's fantastic. But at 12 to 13, they knocked it out of the park. My favorite song, no surprise, is "Thank God It's Friday." I just think that they came together most in that song, and I think it's got all the different things you want from Ice Nine Kills. That they bring it every time, and they got the theater core, the horror core, and they're kind of like in 4 different genres, but they all come together, I think, nicely. I think my second favorite is probably "Stabbing in the Dark." Third is kind of a toss-up between "It Is the End" and "Rocking the Boat." But then after that, they kind of just all run together. They're all good. The best breakdown, I thought, it's kind of tough, might have been a Merry Axemas, because there was like this is another new thing Ice Nine brought. That breakdown, and then literally they put on some deathcore. And Spencer's voice was so deep in that breakdown, I could not believe it. So they did bring new things to the table, which is another reason why I think, again, they knocked this album out of the park.
Well, I think it's also important to mention, though, that it wasn't just them. They had a lot of help.
Oh, yeah. They had a lot of help. A lot of producers helped them.
A lot of guests.
It took 3 years to bring this album together. And they actually had a lot of guests, especially in "It Is the End." So I thought it all came together beautifully.
They had different vocalists. They had some different instrumental parts in there, which I did not know this. I thought that it was just, Spencer and, I'm sorry, I don't know everybody's name, but the lead guitarist who also does backup a lot. I thought it was just them and Enjoy Your Sleigh, but no, that there's one part where it's another singer from another band. So.
And actually, Enjoy Your Sleigh has Sam Kubrick, who's the son of Stanley Kubrick, which is, horror. So there you go. He's legendary, and his son actually called them up and wanted to be in the song, and Spencer's like, "Are you kidding me? Yeah, you can be in the song." So I guess Sam Kubrick's actually in a band. So.
Well, I kind of hope that he was just like, sure, this might be a good tribute, but let's see if you actually can do it.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure he's the one towards the end that does like the deep growling.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
It doesn't quite sound like Spencer, and I know that the other guy doesn't. He does a lot more high range screams. My overall impression about this album is it's again another strong outing from them. Every Trick in the Book I thought was a really solid album, but I personally didn't like a couple of the songs on there. This one, to me, felt very much well-constructed for the most part. Again, because one of the things that I was just always like, I like this band, and I like their sound, but I always like to hear more guitar solos and more stuff from the instrumental stuff. And there's way more guitar solos on this, which I was happy with. Spencer has a very unique and great voice for this sound. I think that I want to say they had fun with this. I really hope that they had fun with this. It sounded like it. To me personally, I I like the song, but I actually think "The Jig Is Up" is actually the most forgettable for me. I do like the breakdown, and especially with the game over kind of sound towards the end. Um, but it's just not one that really stuck with me after I listened to it. And I've listened to this album a number of times now. Um, I personally, this is my opinion, I actually don't mind Savages. I actually think it is really strong. Um, Mostly because when you actually kind of think about the characters they're talking about in some of these songs, some of them lend more into describing who they are and what their story is more than others. You can go into great detail about Freddy. You can talk about what Jason and his mother have gone through. Stabbing in the Dark with Michael, I thought was another really, really strong one. Savages, to me, about Texas Chainsaw, I just don't know how much you actually could go into it story-wise, because it is about cannibals. It is about Leatherface, who doesn't talk, runs around at people with chainsaws in the desert heat, basically. So I thought they did what they really felt like they could get out of it, and the guitar solo in that is freaking amazing.
Yeah, that was the part I got out of it. But I watched 5 different reviewers, and they all said "Savages" was the song. Literally, they all said the same thing. That song did not belong on the album. It would have belonged more in Every Trick in the Book, and they could have replaced that with something else. And I feel the same way.
Okay.
But
And then to me, the songs that stick to me necessarily are ones that dealt with the theme, but they added more of a personal kind of feeling element that I could also relate to, which are songs like Love Bites, Freak Flag. The ones that I would say if I had to pick ones that stand out to me, and especially like Grave Mistake, I would put up there. Then this is in no order: Grave Mistake, Thank God It's Friday, Stabbing in the Dark. I personally still really, really like American Nightmare, and It Is the End because of all the different things in it.
Creepy ass shit, and the horns playing in the background. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then Spencer's voice
as Pennywise.
And they're talking about Dorothy and shit.
If he is getting credit as that. Because there's a number of people involved on that song.
I think it's him, though. I've listened to it multiple times, and I think it's him. If it is, whoever it is, did fantastic.
Yeah.
What else was I going to add? Let's see here. I don't know. Like I said,
Oh, and
it's like, okay, go ahead.
Also, The World in My Hands, since it was Edward Scissorhands, is also another one that I felt was strong as far as because of personal writing wise for me. I could connect with it, which is what makes me like the band a bit more.
I don't know. All the songs are great, but if you actually want to hear Spencer Charnes's, he's got an incredible voice range, first of all, and he fits this band perfectly. I know he's been working on his voice. And he literally sounds like he can narrate a horror movie, because during also the videos, he's kind of creepy too. But if you actually want to see his voice range, and I think maybe it might be his best voice performance if you think about it and listen to The Great Mistake. Mm-hmm. Beginning to end, literally takes your breath away. And it's actually just like, wow.
It's actually one of the few that I'm pretty sure he doesn't really growl that much too.
No.
It's all mostly clean vocal from him.
And it starts out soft and it kind of ends the same way, but The Crow, I think it epitomizes The Crow, just being low-key, deadly.
It's too bad that the movie soundtrack couldn't come out now, because then that would be perfect on it.
Oh, no, and it's going to be interesting to see if they actually do videos for all of them, which I'd be fine with personally.
That's a large task.
But they're probably going to end it on Stabbing in the Dark. I mean, I can see that. I don't know.
And also, as far as how the album is constructed, Grave Mistake is the farthest jump as far as title of song that they're making videos, because American Nightmare is first on the album, Thank God It's Friday is second, and then they jump all the way to Grave Mistake, which is a little bit further, and then they're going to be going back up to Stabbing.
I don't know. They could do the fifth one. I can see it because a lot of things are 5 parts. So I don't.
Yeah, it's just a daunting task to make more and more videos when you're going out on tour and with the production that they have, and that it requires.
They go into a lot of detail and they really care about these videos, which is another thing about Ice Nine Kills. If you watch all their videos, they really care. And I don't know, this is like their 5th or 6th album. And
it might be their 5th.
Personally, to me, it's my favorite. So,
well, as an overall album, yeah, it's probably my favorite. It's
hard to,
my favorite.
Again, Friday, Thank God It's Friday is rivaling Community of the Curse for my favorite songs by them of all time. So that tells you how good this album was.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, geez, as far as like with the fact that they give more like 5 stars for albums, I guess that's
10,
I get
10 scale
that way too.
Whatever.
That's the only way I feel like I could approach this one too. As far as like the whole album goes, with the fact that there's really, to me, only one song that is kind of like, as far as memory wise, but it's not a bad one. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5.
Like I said, the one song, maybe if I listen to it more, it'll grow on me. But I've listened to it a couple times. Savages was okay. I didn't hate it. So like I said, the solo was great, top to bottom. This album got a shit ton of hype, and all the reviewers are giving it an insane amount of praise. So I'm gonna do a point scale, 4.5 out of 10, or 5. 4.5 out of 10, woohoo! 4.5 out of 5. It would have. Well, can we do 4.75?
Sure.
Okay, 4.75 out of 5.
It's the first time we're doing this,
It was damn near perfect. Like I said, maybe if I listen to the Savages a little bit more, maybe it'll grow on me and it'll be 5. But it's damn near. It might as well be a 5.
Yeah. I have listened to a number of metal albums this year that are really, really good this year, and it's just I don't know if it's going to surpass some of them to go into my top this year, but that's just how strong metal is this year, in my opinion. So yeah, guys, that's been week 2 technically of October themed discussions with my guest Nick Grish Chicken over here. Go ahead and plug something, or you feeling like what you're going to be seeing this next week?
Well, I'm going to watch Bloodfest, which I talked about earlier. I'll probably watch, some of the main horror movies, Halloween. I'll probably save Halloween because I'll probably watch it the day that we're going to see it. Mm-hmm. And I'll probably watch Friday the 13th. I'll probably watch Nightmare. Might even watch a Hellraiser, maybe a Pumpkinhead, whatever. I'll definitely get in more this week since I've almost beaten Spider-Man. Facebook, I'm Nick Wood. Instagram, Nickers_Chicken87. Twitter, I'm Nickers_Chicken. Yeah.
You can find me at GuyoLoco89 on Twitter, Ian Novak on Facebook if you want to do that. That's all. Well, wait a minute, I'll do one more. Crazy Rooster 89 on Stardust if you want to see my first reactions. And I'm going to keep on watching some more Stephen King and more obscure stuff this next week, as I usually like to do, because I want to give these more recognition. So yeah, if you would like to hear more from us and keep on following us, please subscribe to our channel at Crazy Poultry Inc. And
if you don't, you're not getting her done.
You're not getting her done, because we're in Indiana and we talk like that.
Corn everywhere.
Stephen King loves corn. I'm just going to put that out there. So see you guys. Keep going to the movies.